Okay, so here we go. Okay, achieving optimal health without gluten. Dr. Bob's ABCs for health. So I'm going to throw out a lot of information to you this evening, and sometimes I might not come back and repeat it, but I want you to see this right here. This is the ever-famous Dr. Bob's ABCs. Has anybody ever heard of the Dr. Bob's ABCs before? Okay, it's a half. How many want to lower your cholesterol 50%? Without drugs. You can lower your cholesterol 50% by eating a half a red apple every day. That's the equivalent of lowering your cholesterol 13%. I eat at least a third cup of beet fiber every day. You can lower your cholesterol 40%. And then the carrots. You can lower your cholesterol 50% or better by eating a half a red apple every day, third cup of beet fiber, and at least one medium carrot. Really a great opportunity, by the way. Get healthy without all the meds. Okay, gluten. The stealth factors about gluten and how it impacts your life. So what we're going to talk about tonight is this. It's the why. So I'm not here to beat up on gluten. I'm just here to educate you and give you information. I was working on my tip for this Friday that I'll be releasing on our website. In a few minutes I'll pass this around so I can get your email information if you would like. I send out every week on Friday something called Ask Dr. Bob. So we have people ask these questions from all over the world. And every Thursday in the afternoon, I get on, use that flip cam for 7 minutes. I talk about the different questions that people have, trying to answer the why. So what I want you to do is just have a better understanding what's going on. I have a lot of great information on my website, and you have one of the websites right there in front of you. Okay, now, I am not going to read through this whole slide presentation, but there are a couple slides that I took that I wanted you to see specifically what's going on. So what is gluten? Gluten actually varies from grain to grain. It's not a specific protein, but a complex of two proteins called prolamins and glutenins. There are various types of proteins in grains, but all grains in the grass family have the prolamins and the glutenins. Now let me share something with you. I mentioned to you before, I was working on a tip. So many people have been programmed that they need to eat grain bread every day. Now, I'm not here to bust any bubbles, okay? But all of you in this room would probably do very well for the next 3 months if you went on a grain-free diet and ate primarily non-starchy vegetables. Not fruit, non-starchy vegetables, half an apple every day. And before the program is over, I think you'll see why. So prolamins and glutenins vary from grain to grain. This is the big one right here. It's gliadin. But here's also the challenge. So the prolamins and the glutenins, we have gliadin, which is in wheat, and then we have these other prolamins in these other foods with rye, barley, and oats. Only the prolamin-glutenin complexes in wheat, rye, and barley are considered to be gluten in current definition, but oat prolamins and glutenins are similar to some respects, and some people with gluten intolerance or sensitivity are sensitive or intolerant to oats as well. So, the question is, are oats gluten-free? Personally, I can tell you, I have patients come in my office and we'll show you a simple test that you can do, that I would even eliminate oats for 3 months. You can say, what about my cholesterol? I just gave you the answer. Dr. Bob's ABCs, a half a red apple every day, third cup of beets, and at least one medium carrot. So here's what prolamin is. Plants which have a high level of plant storage protein called prolamin is one of the many problems with gluten. Here's the issue. Wheat alone, there's 12 different varieties. Then we have rye, barley, corn. Corn can have gluten in it. So a lot of times we're going to eat products that say gluten-free, which I don't promote gluten-free food, by the way, which you'll see in a minute. I promote food that does not have gluten in it. Little play on words. But corn, you start looking at labels and you see something called maltodextrin. That's corn. Maltodextrin is corn. Dextrin is usually corn also. Okay, so just tell me what to do. Gluten-free foods we're going to talk about tonight. Nightshades, the liver, the ABCs. This is really important right here. Adrenal stress. What can I do to reduce inflammation? Logical assessments to create restoration. So let me drop this bomb on you. I believe that Alzheimer's could definitely be directly related to the amount of grains that you're eating, because it causes inflammation in your body. So there's nothing else that you would learn from me this evening. Is our goal is to reduce the inflammation that's in your body. I can tell you that I can watch the ladies that are on the Oscars and they look like they haven't eaten in a month, but when you really look at them, they're inflamed. And I'm going to explain that because I'm looking at all of you right now to see which one of you are inflamed or not inflamed. Okay, so grains and legumes. So just kind of play with me here a little bit. Goitrins are anti-thyroid, so we're going to talk about legumes, and we're going to talk about gluten and gliadin. So, I don't promote just a grain and legume diet, and I'm starting to learn even more for myself that I'm really focusing on non-starchy vegetables. I'll eat rice cakes with almond butter on it, which I'll share with you in a moment, but I'm really avoiding more and more grains. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I was just in Little Italy the other night, and the Italian restaurant I went to had the best bread you could ever imagine. Well, guess what? I ate it, and it was good, and I'm glad none of you were there. La Dolce, is it La Dolce? What was that called?
La Dolce Vita?
Yeah, that's it. That's great. Now that's Italian. You want to know a better place? Bruno's on 41st Street. Bruno's. The best in Cleveland. Grains and phytic acid. Phytic acid binds minerals. Now watch this, okay? Grains. If some of you have a grain and you have itchy skin is lack of calcium. You can have cold sores. You can have leg cramps at night. Now just listen, I'm going to say this to you. Caused by the grains you're eating, because grains take calcium out of your body. Now here's something that's really huge, and I've been really blessed to learn this. You can have anemia in your body because of gluten. You can have anemia in your body because of grains. I've seen this especially in men 50 years old and older that have come into my office, were tired and sluggish, did a blood test on them, their wife brought in their diet sheet, and guess what? The wife proudly said, and I give them whole wheat every day. And I said, you're killing him. So, he was anemic. So if you have any men in your life that are anemic and they're eating a lot of bread, pasta. Okay, now ladies, there's a few of you in this room that are 50 and older. So I'm going to share something with you. I'm starting to see an epidemic, watch me up here, of this. Heart palpitations, 100 miles an hour, high anxiety, high blood pressure, leg cramps, and God forbid, you're not pooping. That was a little slow, but you did get it. All of you should be pooping at least twice a day. Do I see 3 in the back row? So you should all be pooping. You say, why? Because see, if you're not pooping, you don't have enough magnesium. I spoke in North Dakota, and I had to fly. One of those little airplanes. Did you ever fly in North Dakota? Trust me, it is not a place you want to live, North Dakota. So I'm flying this little plane, and it's bouncing, and I see all these farmers down there. I was speaking for a state convention. And afterwards, some of the doctors came up to me and said, listen to this. I'm amazed the number of patients of mine that are farmers that have bladder cancer. Guess where it's coming from? All the chemicals that they're putting on the wheat. There was an article I read from a great magazine called the Well-Being Journal. I'd encourage all of you to get it. wellbeingjournal.com. Just trust me, there's a lot of great information in there. So what the wheat farmers are doing today is that they're spraying wheat at the end of the season with Roundup. Hear what I just said? So they can do something what we call a one-cut. So they're spraying chemicals on the wheat with Roundup. They're spraying the wheat with Roundup, which are the chemicals. So you could have high blood pressure, heart palpitations, and colon problems. This is the biggest, newest epidemic that I'm seeing in my practice right now in ladies over 50 years old. And it would have to be a lot of the women in this room, because see, you're very active people, you wouldn't be here. Couch potatoes aren't going to care about that, but because you're here, you want to learn more. So a great source of magnesium is kale. I'd be eating kale and collard greens and some kind of green food at least 2 or 3 times a week. And what I'm going to pass around now is my email list. How many of you get my emails? Do you like them? Say yes. See, they like them. So I want you to print clearly and legibly. You get them already? Yeah. And then just pass it on. But I would encourage you to follow me on Facebook. I have one Facebook account, it's Dr. Bob. I have another one, just like me, Dr. Bob, the Drugless Doctor. I post the food that I eat. I don't know if any of you have followed me on Facebook. Abraham, do you ever look at any of the food that I make?
It looks delicious.
So yesterday I had collard greens, fennel, and I cooked skirt steak on the grill. And I had a salad with arugula in it. So I'm always posting what I'm making. So I don't go out to eat that often. I make food at home. Okay, finally, this is a big important slide right now. Zinc. So when someone comes into my office, I will look at their face. And if I see large pores, I know they have a zinc deficiency. And you can lose zinc because of wheat and soy. So we don't promote wheat products. We don't promote soy products. Very significant. So I want you to see this. The gluten is found in the endosperm. Not that it was important to any one of you, but I created this slide because I figured there's one analytical left brain biological major here that went to Case Western Reserve, and they are going to ask me, where in the kernel is the gluten? It's in the endosperm. That's a test question, by the way. Big important word up here, hybrid wheat kernels and gluten. So I have to be really careful. There was a gentleman who wrote a book about wheat. I went to his website, and the seed companies that make the seeds corrected him because they said that they're, now watch this, I do apologize for this, but I needed you to see this. The wheat is not genetically engineered. It's all played on words. It's hybrid. I'll read these two sentences. Genetic modification, the slippery terminology of genetics, means that a gene is a partial gene sequence was inserted or deleted using gene splicing technology. While current research efforts continue to work on genetically modified wheat, herbicide resistance and reduction of celiac disease provoking sequences, such GM wheat is not currently on the market. Go right here. By definition, hybridization, backcrossing, and mutation-inducing techniques are difficult to control, unpredictable, and generate plenty of unexpected results. In short, they are worse than genetic modification. So, they're still altered seeds, and here's what I believe is going on. You cannot put altered seeds and chemicals in your body and expect your body to accept it as normal. You know, I wrote a book on trans fat, and I never was a promoter of trans fat. But the medical industry, the cardiac industry, has told us for years to use margarine, use egg beaters, use low fat. Well, guess what? That diet actually causes heart disease because it's trans fat. It causes inflammation in the body. Okay, so legumes, 60% starch. This is one of the reasons I really don't promote soy, by the way, because soy is anti-thyroid. The legumes have small, incomplete proteins. They have potent protease inhibitors. They can damage the pancreas. And you really, if you're going to use legumes, you want to soak them in water to help get rid of the phytic acid. I'm not telling you not to use them. I'm just telling you to use them better. You're going to want to soak them. This would be beans.
How long?
Half hour at least, I would. That's good. Okay, so let's get into some heavy-duty stuff right now. This is going to be some important things. Grains and gluten. They're anti-nutrient. They deplete nutrients in your body. So I already mentioned to you, they're going to get rid of magnesium in your body, they're going to get rid of zinc in your body, and calcium. Cold sores, leg cramps, all can be a result of gluten. They can decrease tryptophan or tryptophan. Tryptophan is important to help your body with emotions. So you could have emotional challenges, if you listen to what I'm saying, just because of the gluten. It increases the omega-6 in your body, causes inflammation, can increase and alter insulin, can cause allergy problems, which is digestion. So I had someone came into my office today and they were talking to me about their chronic allergies and the pollen. Can I tell you what? Pollen does not cause the allergies. Because if it did, everybody around the planet would have chronic allergies. But if the pollen is in the air and I don't have an allergy problem, I believe that allergies are caused by poor digestion. Wheat could be a reason that you have allergies because the gluten in the wheat alters the digestion in your body. You could have autoimmune problems. There's hybrid altered grains, wheat, soy, and corn. So this is going to be a big statement. Right now, I would have never said this 10 years ago. Actually, it all started in 1994. I would go gluten-free for 3 months and just see how your body feels. Most of you would lose 15 to 20 pounds that fast just by eliminating gluten. You say, well, Dr. Bob, what am I going to eat? There's rice products out there. You could probably do some quinoa. You could just eat and focus on vegetables. Just 3 months, you could lose 2 pounds a week and just eat all the vegetables that you want. Okay, now watch this. Food-based allergies cause migrating joint pain. So if you're the type of person that'll come into my office and they say, oh, my knee hurts, oh, my hip hurts, oh, my shoulder hurts, oh, this hurts, it's probably food-based problem. Migrating pain, food-based, it's blood-borne. This is big right now, the brain. See, gluten can cause what they call hypofusion. Now, I'm not saying this to be silly, but if you notice people today just don't seem to be on their game like they used to be, they just kind of walk around. Like, don't you just kind of sense that people are somewhat in a daze when they drive, they're running into your lane, they're at the grocery store and they're looking, and it's like, would you please move? Oh, we're on Earth. Did you ever notice that? Well, a lot's happening because of all the chemicals that are inside of our body. Now, I'm going to stop for a minute and do one little rabbit trail. We have the ability in our office through biocommunication to check out different aspects of your body. Well, I had a gentleman that came in today. He had prostate cancer a year ago. We had it awesome under control. And we checked him today. His estrogen was higher than his testosterone. So I said, okay, what you been doing? And he looked at me like, what do you mean, what have I been doing? So it's this kind of like this divine inspiration. I said, you fertilize your yard. He looked at me and goes, how'd you know? He goes, I didn't fertilize it once. I fertilized 2 yards. Well, with the ability with biocommunication today, his estrogen was high today because of the chemicals that are in the ground. Now listen, you guys, I don't want you to think I'm some kind of nutcase or anything, but it is getting worse. We have chemicals everywhere. There's estrogen. If you have a car that has leather seats in it, there's estrogen in the pigs that they use to make the car seats from. Do you think that they get organic pigs to make car seat leather? Now you're going to say, come on, Dr. Bob, did you ever go someplace that was brand new and you come out and think, you know what, I just didn't feel right? Or if you go grocery shopping, I should say, if you go to a major mall, lots of fabric, it's all the chemicals. Okay, so here's your big moment right here. It's called the swollen wrist test. It's a simple test to assess fluid retention and inflammation. So this is the ever famous Dr. Bob wrist test, okay? So you all have a wrist, right? So I want you to do this so we can see your wrist. So what I want you to do, watch me, is I want you to gently squeeze your wrist. Now, magically, you should feel bone. That's a joke. But some of you don't feel bone. There's a layer of fluid between the skin and the bone. And some of you could swim across the English Channel, it's so big. That's a joke. But you don't feel bone. That means you're inflamed. So you see my wrist? That's a bony wrist. Now I don't want to embarrass anybody, but this fine gentleman right here will stand up. Look at his wrist. See the difference between the wrists? He's inflamed. I'm not inflamed. You say, what does that have to do with anything? I can tell you, I've seen oatmeal do that to people. So you can say, okay, what are you saying, Dr. Bob? I'm telling you that the gluten and the chemicals that are in the grain that are altering your digestion, causing you to have water retention. Inflammation. Remember I was talking about those ladies that were on the Oscars? They look really thin, but if you look really close at them, they look puffy. Look at their wrists. The wrist is the sign. It's a simple test. It's not a scientific test. I made it up. Because I had a guy back in the late 1980s who was really complaining to me, and because I do chiropractic in my office, I went to grab his wrist, and I thought, wow, this is really like boggy. You ever heard that word boggy? So he's holding on to water because his body's in a state of inflammation. Does that make sense? Say yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. You guys are a smart group.